Welcome to Talking Giants, presented by SeatGeek. I'm your host, Bobby Skinner, here with my co-host, Justin Pennick. And we got a Mailbag podcast, a Victory Mailbag podcast. So welcome back, people who haven't been listening to the Mailbag podcast for the last month. Justin, how are you feeling?
Bobby Skinner, Julian, Patreon chat, everybody listening. What is going on? I gotta get something off my chest. I'm here at the John Boy Media office in New York. We're gonna talk about Tay Crowder.
Oh, I just realized that.
Yeah. It's 9:30 at night. I honestly should have went home, but I decided to hang out. I went to that good burger place that we went to, Bobby.
Bear Burger.
That Bear Burger, exactly. Not sponsored. Hopefully they'll be back next year. But I got to get something off my chest. And Julian, you're a betting guy. DraftKings is a friend of the program too. I looked on the DraftKings Sportsbook today. Can you believe that the line as of right now for this Sunday's game is minus 3.5 for the Vikings? Last
At
week
home?
it was minus 4.5 for the Commanders. I can't believe that.
The Vikings have been having some stinky lines like all season long. I think Vegas just does not believe in them at all. Like, I know they were underdogs to the Lions, 2 weeks ago. But yeah, I would put the Giants at more than a 3-point underdog to them.
This is the ultimate matchup between, I guess, what the media likes to call two of the luckiest teams in the NFL. This is also, I guess, the ultimate matchup between the non-Las Vegas darlings of the NFL. That Vegas just loves to fade both of these teams. But I could not believe when I saw that line this morning. Obviously, we'll talk more about the Vikings during the preview pod, but if you were to guess what the line should be, in my mind, I'm thinking it should be 6.5. I would think Vikings minus 6.5. But I don't know. Vegas knows something that we don't. The Giants are going to come out. They're going to win this game. And we're going to be winners 2 games in a row. And I'm excited.
Yep, bet the Giants. Let's win some games. All right, Justin, before we get into the Mailbag podcast, this episode was brought to you by some special people. We got Matt Fearig. He is firing. Sage, man, these names are some. Sage Vigliarolo. The next guy's name is Dirty Sanchez. Justin, do you know what a Dirty Sanchez is?
Is that a code for sex? 21 Jump Street.
Danny Wyman. Or just Dan Wyman. He's wilding. Justin Rutson. What's up, Justin? My favorite Justin in this community. Jeff.
True.
Lewandowski. Jeff Lewandowski. I think I got that. Steve Thaw. We have a Steve Shaw. Steve Thaw. He's thawing out from the cold. Daniel Schiffman. He's on the shift. Colin Burke. And then the last one is just Mr. Hot Dog. Justin, who are these people?
Mr. Hot Dog. Wow. That was a lot of patrons that you just wrote off, Bobby. And if you want to join... Oh, God, burp. Our Patreon community. You can go to patreon.com/TalkingGiants. $2 a month plus monthly tiers to get to hang out with us live while we record the shows. Bobby Skinner will send you some stickers, magnets in the mail, and then also twice a month. Bobby Skinner does some shirt raffles for you. Patreon.com/TalkingGiants. Thanks to our Patreon community.
Take it away, Steve.
Mail time.
Mail time.
The mail's here. Come on. Bye, guys. Here's the mail. It never fails. It makes me want to wag my tail. When it comes, I want to wail.
Thanks, Steve from Blues Clues. Justin, let's get into the mail.
All right, Bobby, first question. We got to talk about Tay Crowder getting cut. So Giants Daily Trivia at trivia_NYG. Give that account a follow if you want to. It is Giants Trivia that happens daily. What do the Giants do at linebacker going forward? Is it as simple as sign Landon Collins to play more safeties? So we'll talk about that, I guess, in the second half of this conversation. But first, Tay Crowder was released. Tay Crowder was cut. How you feeling? What are you feeling? Etc.
He was freed.
He
tweeted free me. They freed him. How I'm feeling with this is curious. And it's really not about Tay Crowder. And it's about, again, this is year 1 of this regime. I just want to find, and it's just so annoying that you just know the beat reporters won't get down to the bottom, because there's been multiple times where they can't get down to the bottom of it because they just don't. Trying to be nice here. I want to know how this coaching staff dealt with Tay Crowder after that tweet, because obviously that tweet was really stupid by Tay Crowder. But I just want to know how this coaching staff treats players when there is an issue. And I want to be hey, did Tay Crowder get toxic in these last 2 weeks after that tweet? I know they apologized to him, and Rodarius apologized to the team after that game, but Rodarius has been a healthy scratch for both those games. He's been, cornerback's very thin. He has been on the inactive list the last 2 weeks, and then Tay Crowder, obviously, this past week when they called up Landon Collins. I just want to know how they deal with it, because we can't get it out, and that's good on the regime that they don't let things get out. But there has been a pattern of guys, they're just not getting along with guys who they didn't bring in with Tony, and again, a lot of these are those players' issues. So this isn't I just want to know. I think every fan should be curious. It's a new regime. How do they deal with players like this? Because as stupid as it is for Tay Crowder to tweet that, tweeting that is not enough for this team to be so thin at linebacker to cut him.
Right,
I want to know more. How bad did it get? How did they deal with it? Do they silent treatment these guys? Do they just deal with them head up? I think that's something I liked about Joe Judge, is when there was an issue, he would go to the player and deal with them. Example, the Golden Tate suspension after that Bucs Monday Night Football game. That's my question. I want to know, because there's been kind of a pattern of this happening with, Logan Ryan being cut.
The
Blake Martinez thing. The Blake Martinez thing, there was it wasn't just his heart wasn't in his, there's part of it. There was issues there. Tony kind of got this, they kind of were done with him. I just want to know how they deal with players like this.
And you brought up a good point of, it's not like we're talking about, take for example, I guess a position that we're strong in right now is the front four defensive line edge rusher. And I guess you put that with a grain of salt a little bit. It's not like we're cutting a defensive lineman when there's Leonard Williams and Dexter Lawrence on the team, and we're cutting a linebacker when that is the weakest position on the team. Are there other positions that maybe we need a little bit more, like interior O-line or wide, especially like a wide receiver one? Yes, but interior linebacker, and specifically the Mike linebacker, is the weakest position on the team, and now there are really only two guys. I don't count Carter Coughlin and Cam Brown as depth pieces for going in at linebacker if one of those guys were to get hurt. So that's one of the things that we talked about over the summer, Bobby. This even goes back to Logan Ryan. It goes back to Blake Martinez over the summer. It goes back to Kadarius Toney. Each one of those situations are different. And the reason why we're speculating is because in each of those situations, probably maybe besides Logan Ryan, I think we kind of got confirmation from the beat reporters that Logan Ryan was a kind of a Joe Judge guy, and they just didn't want that kind of voice or leadership in the locker room, whatever. We don't really know what happened with Blake Martinez. We're forced to kind of make our own conclusions, especially looking at what happened with the Raiders. We don't fully know what happened with Kadarius Toney. So
the only things we know about Kadarius Toney, Justin, are from us using context, because Kadarius Toney is so out there. So it's we can kind of figure things out with injury. We have not heard anything about how was Toney in a meeting with the beat.
No.
The beat reporters have given us nothing on Toney. Not a single bit of fans have done more than the beat reporters have on this.
Yeah, and there's more to this Tay Crowder conversation than just, oh, well, Tay Crowder sucks, so why are you guys spending a few minutes talking about this? Yeah, we obviously know that Tay Crowder is not a good football player, but in a linebacker group that is so depleted of talent, it kind of is worth talking about. And also, we're learning about this regime, and clearly one of the main things of this regime so far, one of the main themes is, if they don't want to work with you, they will not work with you. They just flat out will not work with you. They will look to trade you. They will release you in any kind of situation that kind of suits fit and makes sense for them.
Yeah, and my main thing is I want to figure out when the Rodarius thing happened, when the Tay Crowder thing happened, how did they deal with these guys? Because cutting Tay Crowder, while it's probably not significant to the future, doesn't make sense football-wise, because okay, you think Jalen Smith's better than him, but Jalen Smith's not good. But if Jalen Smith goes down, are you going to put Micah McFadden as Mike linebacker? we'll talk about Landon Collins as in a second. I think he should be on the active roster anyways. Like, you didn't need to cut Tay Crowder to put Landon Collins on the roster.
No, you could have put Lemieux on IR. Like we talked about that on Monday.
Or cut David Sills, who's been, a healthy scratch. He's useless to the roster. So it's like if Jalen Smith were to get hurt, it's like, well, then we need Tay Crowder out there, even though he's not good. Like, I think Tay Crowder should have played over him regardless, but that's not even what this is about. So, like, you need depth, even though it's not very good depth. I feel like there's got to be some solid linebackers on practice squads, by the way, the Giants can bring on the active roster.
Austin
Clayton. But nonetheless, yeah, I mean, when you see Carl Banks start bashing a player, you can tell that the coach. We talked about it on Lawrence Tynes' podcast when we were on there. It's like it's there, and then lo and behold, a day later, Tay Crowder's waived. Like, I think Tay Crowder, playing wise, should have finished his rookie contract, or at least went into camp next year. Like, I think he actually played fairly well in 2020 as a rookie, third year playing linebacker, playing next to Blake Martinez. It's just the last year and a half he's been thrown into a Mike linebacker role, and he's not very good at that.
Yeah, I mean, Bobby, you talk about this every summer and every year. You think your interior linebacker 4 isn't going to get run throughout a season? Well, guess what? Micah McFadden was our interior linebacker number 4 this training camp. He's our starting weak side linebacker basically for the entire half of this, the second half of this entire season. It's like every year you talk about it. Every year, your interior linebacker 4 or 5, the guy that you least expect to get playing time, just always seems to get playing time because that's just how the cards stack up. So I would have loved, and again, we don't know what's happening behind the scenes. Tay Crowder could have had a sour attitude about this, especially with the free me tweet, whatever. He clearly felt some sort of way about this coaching staff benching him, but I would have loved, think of how successful Tay Crowder is as a 7th round pick and Mr. Irrelevant, the last pick of the draft. He could stink as a player, but the fact that he was out there, he was starting for 3 years, and then 66% of the time, 2 out of the last 3 years, he's been in a spot that isn't natural to him at the Mike linebacker spot. I still consider Tay Crowder a success of a draft pick, even if he wasn't a good or a great player for the Giants these last 3 years.
Yeah. My main thing is I'm just curious, I want to figure out what went down. And I know our beat won't do it because they just won't do it. But they'll say afterwards, everyone saw this coming.
Jordan Ronan said it was performance-based. I don't believe that. I don't believe. Why did he, if it was performance-based, why did it take him, how many games did he start? He lasted the entire summer. I don't fully believe that.
No, me neither. So, I don't know. It's not even about Tay Crowder. I just want to know, how do they, because with Blake, I asked a lot of questions from people and not the beat reporters because they didn't know anything and they just repeated, what PR people told them. And it was just the idea I got is kind of Blake kind of started getting the cold shoulder from the coaching staff. And I wonder, it's so these guys were healthy scratches, right? Were they told you are going, this is your form of suspension, you're going to be healthy scratches? Or were they just okay, you guys tweeted, we're not happy with you. We're just making you healthy scratches, and kind of got, not the silent treatment, but just kind of ignored in a sense. That's what I want to know. It's how does this, because that stuff matters. It may not matter with Tay Crowder, but it will matter with a player 2 years from now, when we're getting in the play, down in a playoff run and you got to bench, this guy for this guy, but you still need that guy to be depth. So that's my question going forward. For the linebacker position in general, Justin, I mean, it doesn't look good. So Landon Collins made some good plays, and I broke those down on a social media, on a film breakdown on Twitter. But he also made some really bad linebacker plays.
Yeah, he did.
So there is, and I think before this Tay Crowder stuff even happened, I think Landon Collins definitely deserves to be on the roster and play, because he can create negative plays for the offense that some of the other guys can't make. Him dipping around the edge on that tackle was really nice. And that third down, he did some good things. But I also watched, every play of Landon, and there's also okay, this is a fresh face technically who made a couple plays. And as fans, myself including, you have that syndrome of this guy made 2 plays, let's go. and you get disappointed. Like kind of with Jalen Smith when he was when he was playing the will next to Tay Crowder, he made a couple plays like, ooh, this is, the guy's contributing. Even Mike McFadden as well, and then that happens with other positions. So Landon Collins is definitely not an answer to the linebacker issues, but I think he can help.
Yeah, I think he can help in certain situations, in certain spots, especially if a team decides to run outside the tackles, which that has been a problem for the Giants this year, kind of stopping. I mean, they have trouble stopping the run everywhere, but misdirection. And if Landon Collins maybe falls for something for a hot second, I mean, his recovery speed is going to be quicker than any of the linebackers on our team, and his ability to flow sideline to sideline, that's going to be quicker. But he does not have the strength to take on blocks. He does not have the strength to take on offensive linemen when they choose to go to the secondary level. So that's where I get a little nervous. If we want to really start talking about Landon Collins being out on the field for, I think, got 40% or 44% of the defensive
snaps.
Yeah, he
played like 28 snaps. There was one play where like he just didn't play his gap, and Brian Robinson runs right past him.
Yeah, I mean,
so he can't see over the D-line and O-line.
He's not a linebacker by trade. I mean, we made the jokes when he was with the Giants, especially in his latter years with the Giants. We made the jokes that he should move to linebacker, and lo and behold, with the last year with the Commanders, and then now with the Giants, he has moved to linebacker. He just doesn't have the strength that's necessary for a linebacker to take on those blocks. So I am a little worried if he's going to be on the field more, that's going to be his issue, kind of getting washed out a little bit. And then also, Bobby, the plays in which Landon Collins was on the field playing linebacker, he was the weak side backer, and then Jalen Smith was still on the field. Really, my main objective is how the hell can we get Jalen Smith off the field? Because Micah McFadden is not great. I don't think he's, I think we differ a little bit on opinions of Micah McFadden, but I can agree with you that Micah McFadden is a better player right now for the Giants than Jalen Smith. So the whole point of it's still frustrating that Landon Collins is going to be on the field and Jalen Smith is still going to be on the field, Micah McFadden off the field.
The thing with Landon that's positive, though, is that this defense with the pass rush and with the secondary so banged up right now, they've kind of lived by the like, hey, let's just create negative plays and get off the field somehow.
Yeah, and he can do that. He did
and that's
that.
what Landon Collins can do for you.
Yeah, he did that a ton with Washington, even when they were, kind of limiting him, benching him, whatever. He created, I think, last year he tied his tackle for loss career high that he had in 2016 with the Giants, where he was kind of lining up everywhere and anywhere. So, yeah, he still can very much can create negative plays. That's definitely in his forte.
Yep. All right, next question.
Next question is coming from EasyE123E. At E123Easy. It seemed that despite the numbers, DJ passed the ball well and operated well in the quick game. Is this something that they can sustain and lead to a more balanced offensive attack?
We've got a DJ question on the next one, so we'll kind of give some big picture thoughts on him. Not big picture, but thoughts on him. I want to take this question to talk about Mike Kafka's game plan versus the Commanders. It's kind of, I have the same thoughts as the Monday podcast, but just some more evidence behind it. The more I look at it, I kind of hate the way that Kafka called the game plan when you look at it as a whole. Like, there's the elements of I like it is I like working the quick game on early downs. My issue is that their whole offense was solely quick game on first and second down. Like, it was solely quick game, and you saw with no throws over 15 yards. Like, no throws over 15 yards. And that was essentially the game plan. Like, there is two plays where there's one play where I think DJ should just throw it deep because of the options. Like, you just should have. It was a third down. They're going to punt anyways. And then there's one other play where he should have thrown it deep. Other than that, like, and that was also on a third and long too. So on early downs, there was no, like, desire to push the ball down the field from them. And the offensive line is an excuse to not throw the ball deep a ton, but it's not an excuse to not try it at all. And especially with the success you had versus the Commanders 2 weeks ago, where you got guys open down the field and making plays and it led to scoring points. They just didn't attempt it. And versus a team that plays in those two high shows like the Commanders, get them to bite. And, the Commanders did it to the Giants on the opposite side. So I didn't like, it was basically a Jason Garrett style offense. Like, they ran slant flat a ton and they ran I charted it. 11 out of the 31 throws were either like curl flat concepts, stick concepts, or all curls. 11 out of the 31 throws that's what they were for DJ. And then again, they only scored 13 points in this game, Justin. 7 of those points came from an 18-play drive. Awesome drive, but it shows like Daniel Jones played awesome on that drive. Still took 18 plays to get down there. And then 3 came from just Saquon Barkley and the O-line taking over at the end. So I do like the early down, quick game and stuff, and DJ did that well, but you got to have effort to push the ball down the field. And it's great they won this game, but they got 7 points from the defense, and they only put up 13 points on offense. That's not a successful offensive outing.
Yeah, and Bobby, towards the beginning part of the season, even though Daniel Jones's average intended air yards was still very, very much on the conservative side of things, they were running more deep concepts, and that was setting up stuff in the intermediate part of the field, or even just throwing nearer at the sticks. This was just a very much a different level of I always mess up this word, conservatism. Am I correct in saying that earlier in the season they were running deep concepts? It's just that
this game more
they
so
weren't
than
really
other.
throwing it.
And it's not about the run-pass ratio. It's just with their concepts. It was almost exclusively quick game on early downs. And then and it's not like on 3rd and long they were really like testing them deep. It was just like we got to at least get 10 yards down the field with our route concepts. And a lot of times they were all curls.
Now the main difference of I want to defend Mike Kafka a little bit because it kind of sounds like we're poo-pooing him. And
I do too, but go ahead.
So, but they when you say that, it's just like Jason Garrett, they run a lot of curls. Mike Kafka, I found, especially on 3rd down, they've been running the curl concept very successfully on 3rd downs and even 4th down, whereas Jason Garrett just couldn't find any lick of success no matter what down he ran that on. But the original question was, DJ in the quick game, is this something that they can sustain and lead to a more balanced offensive attack? If they continue to throw on 1st down, try to avoid 3rd downs and or just make 3rd downs more manageable, then yes. I still don't think, like you're saying, mix in some deep concepts. So are you saying that that you want to see more deep concepts, or are you saying that you want, or you're advocating for DJ to throw the ball down the field more? Because I think those two things are very, very different scenarios.
Both, but more so concepts. They didn't even run the concepts this week.
Yeah.
And I like you said, I like the quick game passing, especially on 1st down.
Yeah,
because like you said, it helps them get not get behind the sticks. And we talked about it on the Monday pod. 11 out of 13 times when they threw the ball on 1st down, they ended up turning that series into another 1st down. So I do like that, and I like that. I honestly, with the personnel they have right now, O-line, wide receiver, whatever, I think with the last month of things just not working, I think they're trying to find their identity. So that's why I'm not like, we don't have this was what, the 14th game of the year? This was the first game where they did this. I think, one, it could be game plan specific to the Commanders because they are the one team that played us in 2 high shells. But I also think they're like, okay, we do got to adjust. Let's kind of find a new identity as we finish out this season and go into the playoffs, hopefully. Yeah,
absolutely. The Vikings have also been really, really bad against the pass over the last 5 weeks, and I think Patrick Peterson might be struggling a little bit with an injury. Again, stay tuned for Friday, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. Bobby Skinner, I want to talk to you about Manscaped before we get to the second part of this little Daniel Jones offense conversation. Hey, fellas, this episode of Talking Giants is brought to you by our favorite producers of ball trimmers, Manscaped. Hey, fellas, and hey, ladies, I don't want to leave out our ladies that listen to Talking Giants. The global leaders in below-the-waist grooming are leaving 2022 with brand new products, of course, because that's what just Manscaped does. Let me guess. All these brand new products, they go around the whole P theme. Preserve, Ultra Premium Package, Platinum Package. Let me guess. Oh, look. Preserve Cologne and Preserve Body Wash. Oh, look, it is a P. 2023 is the year to up your hygiene game and smell amazing, and Manscaped wants to help you do so with this special offer. Use code GIANTS for 20% off plus free shipping at manscaped.com. Take the leap into the new year and join 7 million who already trust Manscaped. 2023 is on the way, And the last thing you want is to be the guy with pubes getting in your way to make it your best year yet. Get the Lawnmower 4.0. It's the leader of the Performance Package 4.0, or as I call it, the perfect package for your pack. There's too many P's, but I do love a good alliteration. Get 20% off and free shipping with code GIANTS at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. Push and P. Remember, that was the thing on Twitter. We all changed our names. We all changed it to the P emoji. Use code GIANTS. Happy New Year to your balls. Happy New Year to your balls, Julian.
Thank you. You'll be glad you did.
You'll be glad you did. Julian's getting good at this. All right, let's get to Potato Grifter at Grifter10. It's hard to tell watching the broadcast, and I don't have access to all 22 film, but is Daniel Jones seeing the field better lately? He seemed to miss open receivers earlier and was wondering if that was still the case. I think Bobby's about to start talking about how, no, he was missing them earlier, maybe in the season, but the game plan and the approach to the offense has very much changed. Is that what you're about to say, Bobby?
Not necessarily. I mean, the first 2 games he wasn't, but I mean, and that's why last week I kind of had like, you know what, like I'm gonna stop being bashful. Like I'm gonna defend Daniel Jones a little bit. And now this game wasn't amazing. Like if like I know they won, but like he's played much better games in weeks leading up to this. But he's kind of just doing everything right within this offense. Like he's really not making any mistakes. Like the interceptions are not just like oh they're playing like maybe the scheme is, but like he's just not making mistakes with the ball at all. Like he's going where the ball needs to go. He's being accurate. And he's like he's going through games almost flawlessly, Justin. Here's the issue is that the 1 or 2 plays a game when you watch film, and if you go through a game, it's like there's 1 or 2 plays you think DJ should have done this. That's a quarterback should have done this. That's a great game. That is a great game. Like, don't just get caught up in the highlights of all other quarterbacks. Most of the quarterbacks make 5 to 10 plays a game where it's like, you should have done this differently. The issue with DJ is those 1 to 2 plays are usually like, be more aggressive. Like, that's the coaching point on that. You know, and he should have thrown to Slayton on a 3rd and 9.
But that's the frustrating thing, though, man. And we've said this year in and year out about Daniel Jones since 2019. Now, granted, 2019 was filled with a shit ton of mistakes, too. Shit ton of mistakes. And also, thanks, Nate Solder. Sayonara, see you later, right? That's such the frustrating thing. Like, breaking news. We don't have Joe Montana at quarterback. Daniel Jones ain't Joe Montana. So the 1 to 2 missed opportunities that Daniel Jones doesn't get or doesn't convert in a game, like, are especially like my main frustration point of this year is there hasn't been a game of 30 points. There hasn't been a game where the explosive passing offense has been here and they've arrived. Like, every missed opportunity that Daniel Jones has is the end of the world. It feels like it's the end of the world. And we say this every week about the deep passing attempts. Every time that Darius Slayton and Daniel Jones don't convert on a deep passing attempt, it's such a big deal because we don't know the next time that they are going to get an explosive play. We don't know the next time they're going to take a deep passing opportunity. And this is such a nuanced, complicated conversation where it could be a combination of quarterback, wide receivers, and O-line, right? But it's just so frustrating that we are in another year and we're still looking at the missed Daniel Jones opportunities as a big deal. The 1 to 2 missed opportunities that he doesn't get in a game, where, by the way, I had this epitome and it hit me today. There is such a value right now, such a huge value, even when the explosive plays aren't there. There is such a huge value of Daniel Jones and this Giants offense not turning over the ball. Do you know that the Giants offense is number 1 in the NFL in the lowest offensive turnover rate? They're number 1. They ain't number 1 in a lot of categories, Bobby, and they used to be number 1 in a lot of bad categories. They are number 1 in the lowest offensive turnover rate this year. Daniel Jones's interception rate is 1%. He has 4 on the year. He has about 400 passing attempts. That is insane. That is insane stuff. That stuff matters. And I think Daniel Jones had a quote today. I think it was Dunleavy. I've gotten a better idea of what does win in the NFL. A lot of times it's not what you think. And I kind of think what that's referring to is, of course, you want those explosive plays. And I was the lead advocate for explosive plays over the last few years. But also, again, going back to what Jones says, I've gotten a lot better of an idea of what does win in the NFL. And what does win in the NFL is kind of staying on schedule, and especially when you have a running game, that helps too. Staying on schedule, not turning over the ball, and doing enough to win a game. And I know that's not necessarily a ringing endorsement of Daniel Jones, but he is doing what he has to do in this offense to be quote unquote successful, and being successful is winning games.
Well, that's why he could throw for 160 yards for a game, and you're like, yeah, he kind of did everything he needed to do in this game. Like, and they only scored 13 points, and it's, and it's not like. Trust me, I was ready to move on, and it's just like he's doing everything right, and again, if they don't believe, if they, I don't know, like that 4th and 9 conversion to Richie James was sick. Like, that was great command of the offense. That was a tight throw, and like you pointed out, him like really getting in Richie James's grill before the snap. Like, that was like great, taking like control of the huddle, because they ran all curls on that, and he told Richie James, like, they're going to play in man, and they're going to lag off and play underneath because they know we love to run all curls. He said, turn it into an out route. And the other corner from Darius Slayton, like, all the corners were lagging off. And that corner, like, tried to jump it, and he put it on him. The 3rd and 9, he had 3 dudes coming up. So he's doing like some really awesome stuff, but the box score stats are boring as shit. And the offense is pretty boring, but he's just like operating it really well. So it's like, what do you put like, it's like, what are the things you value? So he's running the offense like to a T.
Yeah. And if he does make those mistakes where he's throwing interceptions, he's fumbling the ball within the pocket. His sack rate, by the way, his sack rate's the highest of his entire career. It's higher than it was in 2020. It's higher than it was in 2019. His sack rate.
I think his sack to pressure rate is better than now. Last year he was really good, but I think his sack to pressure rate, is really well too. I'm gonna look it up.
He already has the most play action attempts in his entire career, and his sack rate is still the highest in his entire career. And he's not fumbling the ball at the same rate, especially at the same rate that he was in 2019. So he's taking care of the ball, keeping the offense on schedule, which right now, like, if this was the first 2 weeks of the season, we're talking about how Daniel Jones is missing those deep play opportunities. He's missing guys down the field. There aren't those opportunities to be had in this offense with Darius Slayton and Isaiah Hodgins as wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2, and in the way that they're calling it. And I would love to call out right now that Daniel Jones is missing those deep explosive play opportunities, but we can't. We just can't realistically sit here and tell you that.
The first 2 weeks we did, Justin.
Yes, we did.
We looked at his completion percentage, which was really good. His yards per attempt after those first 2 weeks, and we said, I don't care what his quarterback rating is. He's playing bad, And then since then, he's totally turned it around. So
yeah, he's doing what they are asking him to do, and Brian Dable kind of backed that up too. There's actually a quote that Brian Dable had. We would certainly like more explosive plays. That helps you score points, Dable said, but he's doing what we ask him to do. There you go.
All right, next question.
Next question is coming from, this is actually a question that I really like. It's coming from Tim at NYG Tim. If you can bring back one player from last year's team for the stretch run outside of James Bradbury, who would it be?
Who would it be for you?
I am torn between, I know who I will pick, but I'm torn. So
here's the question. Is this week 1 of 2020, guys haven't been injured yet, or is this like played majority of the 2021 season?
Whoever from last year's roster. Like, I'm not gonna put any parameters on this because last year's roster was obviously really bad, right? Especially the guys that aren't here. But I am torn between Austin Johnson and Evan Ingram.
Stop with the Evan Ingram shit. Do not overreact to one big game that he had.
No, I'm not overreacting.
He's having the same amount of yards per game he had in 2020 when he was like a focal point of the offense.
I would, if you put a gun to my head, I would choose Austin Johnson. But That's who I would
Why Evan Ingram? I don't care about why Evan Ingram? Because that's it. To me, that's a bad take.
He would be clearly a tight end 2. He would not be getting the majority of the snaps. Daniel Bellinger would be tight end 1. He would not be out there. And again, this is my scenario.
Here's where I disagree is where player status matters. And if they re-signed Evan Ingram to a 1-year deal and also drafted Daniel Bellinger, they wouldn't just be like, "Oh, you're tight end 2 to Evan Ingram."
This is my hypothetical situation for my fake playoff run, and that's what I would do. But again, I would pick Austin Johnson is my pick, but I was torn between Evan Ingram and Austin Johnson. I also thought about Logan Ryan too. Logan Ryan would help.
Yeah, Logan Ryan would be nice. So mine was between Logan Ryan and Peppers, like both those safeties. I think like Logan Ryan would really help right now, and then Peppers would just fit well. Like he'd be causing havoc in this Wink Martindale defense. But to me, the answer is easily pre-ACL tear Blake Martinez.
Yeah.
Like without a doubt. Like, and I went through the whole roster. Like, when anybody like challenge me on this one, no. Like Peppers is just a guy I like more, but Blake Martinez easily. Like the linebacker position is so bad, he would make that will linebacker better. Whoever it was next to him, like he was a really good linebacker for the Giants. You know, he was not Fred Warner or nothing, but he's a really good linebacker pre-ACL tear. So for me, it would be Blake Martinez easily. Like I think he improves the defense by a wide margin.
Yeah, I really wish we fully knew what happened with him.
Well, even coming back from the ACL, like we knew Blake Martinez wouldn't be the same coming back from the ACL tear.
Oh my God! But I would give up my left pinky toe to have even Blake Martinez coming off a torn ACL over Jalen Smith. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, but I'm talking pre-ACL tear. Like no, this guy's 100% a really good player, Blake Martinez.
Did you think about Austin? Like you gave me so much hate for saying Evan Ingram, and that wasn't even my choice. I just thought about him. You like jumped
No, I didn't think about
me.
Austin Johnson. That's an underrated one. I wouldn't go there, but that is an underrated one. Where it's like we have those 3 good D linemen.
Yeah, that would be. I think that's huge for this year because I think if teams are smart, because the Giants just can't play Dexter Lawrence and Leonard Williams 100% of the snaps. I even think I wonder what
They
their
essentially
snap
do though.
They really do, but still, like there are drives where Henry Mondeau and Ryder Anderson are out there out of necessity. Justin Ellis as well, out of necessity. They do run 5 defensive lineman sets. They take the linebackers off the field. They put those 5 defensive lineman sets out there. If I'm a team, I'm running towards Ryder Anderson. I'm running towards Henry Mondeau. I'm running towards Justin Ellis. And Washington did that. Washington did that a ton. It's just curious as to why they didn't do it more, and we have a question about that coming up soon.
All right, next question.
Next question is coming from B at BN. How about this? Benno. How would we say this last name? BN Oyes 64. How about that? Why is Nick Gates not the starting center yet? And should I be mad about it? That's what B asks. And then Moitz, here we go. Julian, help me out.
Mateys Chalet.
How about that? Modise Chalet asks, is Ben Bredeson an interior offensive lineman we can pair with Andrew Thomas for the long haul? Only asking because he's only 24 and he's been playing well this season. So we have a Nick Gates question and we have a Ben Bredeson question.
So Gates should be the better. He should be the starting center now that Ben Bredeson's back. Ben Bredeson did look good. We'll talk about his future in a second. One, he's just got a better body of work in his career than John Feliciano. He has a better athletic ability. I think better upper body strength. And he's 3 years younger. And I just think he's a flat out better player than Feliciano. Here's the thing that sucks for us and Giants fans alike. Is Ben Bredeson came back. They rotated him with Nick Gates. And this is the time to put Nick Gates at center. And Feliciano played a pretty damn good game versus the Commanders.
Of course.
And so that's the issue. Like he had one bad play that was very visible in the negative 5-yard loss for Saquon. But the coaching staff could come right back and say Nick Gates had the same play 2 weeks ago versus the Commanders and Jonathan Allen. Like the exact same play. That being said, Gates has had the best. He's played one game at center this year. It's the best Giants game they've gotten from the center spot this year versus the Cowboys. So you should be mad. But here's the issue is the coaching staff, Feliciano's their guy. They're going to pick him to be their guy, and it's not going to happen. And it's going to be really frustrating, but it's not going to happen, Justin.
Yeah, I'm not expecting it to happen, even though it should. So we actually got a mailbag question, too, that I liked. How are like John Feliciano and Nick Gates just different players? What does Nick Gates do better than Feliciano? What does Feliciano maybe do better than Nick Gates? So, I mean, you watch the O-line every week. You know Nick Gates like the back of your hand. So give us some insight into that.
He's better at the point of attack. He's better at
who's
working.
He?
Nick Gates.
Got it.
I said he's better. That's context clues. Nick Gates is better at the point of attack. He's better using his hands and engaging. And then in pass pro, he's just worlds better. His feet move better. He doesn't overextend himself. Like he has longer arms. Like he's just, like I said, at the point of attack in the pass pro, like he doesn't get bullied. He doesn't, even when he was playing guard, he wasn't playing guard very well. But it's like you compare him to Glowinski. He doesn't have quick initial losses. He had losses, the two, not versus the Commanders. He actually played really well versus the Commanders. But the two previous games, he had losses at guard, but they weren't these quick initial losses. So he's got like the feet to recover that those guys don't have. And I just think he has a better idea for helping other guys out. Like he knows how to stay connected and then when to go and headhunt for other guys, where Feliciano can just get so lost in his block or helping with this guy that a stunt will come around. This guy's losing his block and Feliciano's not there to help, where Gates was very good at that stuff, and that stuff doesn't get noticed all the time.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I just point to athleticism. I think Gates can move a lot better. Nick Gates, I mean, John Feliciano just talks about talked all off season about being a dirtbag. Haven't necessarily saw that attitude. Nick Gates doesn't need to talk about it. He just is. He just lives that. He's just the embodiment of a dirtbag. Again, doesn't talk about it. John Feliciano likes to talk about it a ton. Something I was watching in the O-line report today, Bobby, saw John Feliciano with the decent amount of false steps too, even though him and Ben Bredeson, like in duo, there was a duo play where John Feliciano had a false step. It's like, yeah, they're getting movement on this guy, but I don't know if Nick Gates has those false steps. I think his footwork is pretty solid. He's quick. Maybe you can say that Nick Gates maybe isn't strong enough for an interior defensive lineman, but I think that's the biggest knock on Nick Gates, that he doesn't have the most play strength in the world. I'll take it from him. So he should be starting, but I don't think it's going to happen. I don't even think it's going to happen this year.
I don't know what's going to happen with Gates. I talked with him a little bit. And he's like, I just got to put out. He wants to play center. But Gates, he is like, hey, I'll do whatever. That's always his mindset. He's like, hey, if I got to rotate, it is what it is. So but I think he wants to play center, and that's the place where we can be like, okay, we kind of have a guy here. Where we don't got to stress this position going forward, where it's like the idea, like someone said in the chat, and I've actually seen it on Twitter a lot too, and it's a good point. It's like, well, what about putting Gates over Glowinski and you leave Feliciano at center? Well, I think Gates' long-term position is center, and Glowinski is going to be here next year. So if the team is going to take my guy over one or the other, it's going to be, to me, like Glowinski. That's has
absolutely
the more vested into him. So Nick Gates should be the center. I think he's just a better player. He has a better body of work than John Feliciano, better ability, and he's 3 years younger. And honestly, it's just the right thing to do.
Yeah, I agree. Did you touch on Ben Bredeson?
Dude, Bredeson looked really good. He got movement in the run game. Like, he did make a difference. A lot of times people correlate success of a drive to remember the first game of the Titans when they're like, well, Azudu, they scored their touchdowns when Azudu was on the field compared to Bredeson. It's like, well, that doesn't matter. Like that, those Saquon Barkley runs, you can correlate those to Ben Bredeson playing. So he looked good. I mean, he was aggressive in pass pro, really bringing the punch to guys like Jonathan Allen and stonewalling them. But here's a thing that's not, I guess it is talked about. Bredeson's injury prone, man. He got injured twice last year, got banged up in camp, and then, then missed 2 months essentially this year, Justin. That's my worry about Bredeson. It sucks because he's a player who has improved and gotten better, and it's just but can you bank on the guy being healthy long term? But he should be the starting left guard going forward, obviously.
Yeah, something that Kevin Zeitler had that I saw, especially this week from Ben Bredeson, is Zeitler had an awesome like eye and foot connection, where I feel just being balanced as an offensive lineman and, you know, your feet moving as fast as your eyes or vice versa. You know, you don't want to be caught leaning. I feel like that's so important as an offensive lineman. I feel like that's just half the battle, just putting yourself in a good spot to be successful. You know, and if you're somewhat halfway strong, then you should be able to hold up and win that battle, win that play. So Ben Bredeson's eye and foot connection was absolutely awesome this game, and his ability to bring the punch, like Bobby said, was really top notch, and it was really fun and really cool to see. So if Ben Bredeson could give you a guaranteed 13, 14 games plus for the next 2-3 years, would you consider Ben Bredeson as a future piece of this interior offensive line?
Say the numbers again.
Like if you knew that you were going to get 13, 14 games plus every single year out of Ben Bredeson for the next, basically, since he's on his rookie contract with the Giants, his entire rookie contract with the Giants, would you take that? And you would say he is your starting left guard for the rest of his rookie deal?
Where the Giants O-line is? Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. You would feel comfortable. But the problem is that you can't guarantee that he's going to give you 13, 14 games every single season. So.
Yeah. Like he's been like, you look at his like pass blocking efficiency numbers and it matches the eye test. Like they're top of the league, like for guards. While Azudu and Glowinski are bottom 10 in the league.
Tough.
Which is bad.
Tough. What isn't bad is DraftKings, Julian.
Yes, DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, is my go-to when betting on the NFL this holiday season. DraftKings has same-game parlays, easy and fast payouts, player prop options, and more. I love the quarterback rushing yards over player props. Daniel Jones, he hits those all the time. Obviously, he's always using his legs. My favorite, Patrick Mahomes rushing overs. Love those. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 on any NFL team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. Check this out. Right now, everyone can earn up to 100% boost with DraftKings stepped up same game parlays. We've got the Jets and the Jaguars today. Not a very exciting matchup, but maybe throw in a same game parlay. Maybe a Zay Jones touchdown, Garrett Wilson. I like him. He's really good. I don't know if the Jets will score points, but you'll probably get some good odds on that. Throw those all together, and the more legs you add, the bigger the boost, the bigger your shot to win big. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use code JOHNBOY, place a $5 bet on any NFL team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with code JOHNBOY. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details.
Wow. Thank you, Julian.
Great
I appreciate you.
Very electric.
Yeah.
Next question.
Julian, give me a good, like, sports radio. Wow! Like, come on. Give me.
I don't think you can do it in them.
Wow!
No, that was. You may have to edit
that. Was the anime wow sound effect.
Sound like Mario.
That goes crazy in the Bills TikTok videos. They use that one all the time.
You did a Chris Berman whoop there for a second. Do that. There you go.
I was going to use that for the Saquon run, but Collinsworth gave me a good one.
Yeah. All right, Doug Analytics at Doug_Analytics. What the heck and heck, or why the heck and heck, did Washington stray away from running the ball and stopping the run to end the game? Ron Rivera, dumb. Saquon was much more efficient running the ball versus even boxes, and it wasn't even like we had a deep passing attack to keep them honest.
Yeah, I'm glad Doug asked this question because going through the film and I chart everything, I had the same thoughts in my head. I was like, the Commanders are just not well coached. Like, they are just, like, game plan. Like, that's my thing. It's like, do you guys game plan? Like, I know they got a top 10 defense and stuff, but it's like, do you game plan for the other team or you just run your defense? Like, maybe you think you guys are good enough to just do that, and I guess they only held them to 13 points. But it's like, they didn't stack the box. Saquon, He got over 50% of his runs were against light boxes, and he had 6.3 yards per carry on those. The Giants didn't. I guess they stopped the Giants from attacking deep, so it worked well. And then on the offensive side, I like Scott Turner. I think he's a good example of a solid offensive coordinator, but his own fans probably hate him. They handed the ball off to Gibson and Robinson 5 times in the second half, and they got 34 yards on those 5, so they averaged basically 7 yards a pop. And they only handed it off 5 times. And the only bad run they had was on 2nd and 10.
Yeah, and Doug tweeted this out too. It's not like Washington was, playing. Well, they were playing from behind, but I mean, 55% of their snaps was spent in Giants territory. So in that regard, they're not playing catch up in terms of crossing the 50-yard line. And they had 10 plays. 10 of their 63 plays were inside the red zone. That's 16% of the time. So again, Doug Analytics tweeted that out. So go give him a follow. They just couldn't finish. They just could not finish drives. And this is credit to Wink Martindale, where the Giants have a top 5 red zone defense. They don't allow teams to score touchdowns, and it helped that one of the fumbles that they forced was inside the Giants' 5-yard line, which really, really helped too. So run the ball. Hey, Minnesota Vikings, run the ball when you're playing the Giants, and when you're throwing the ball, throw it to Justin Jefferson. That's the path to victory for the Vikings. I think I should. So I've gotten 2 message requests to go on Viking shows this week. Should I do it and literally just go on the show and say run the ball a lot, and then if you face a 3rd and 5, just throw it to Justin Jefferson? Should I just go on the show and say that?
Yes.
Okay. I'll think about it.
Next question, quickly. Let's do this one quickly.
Next question is coming from Connor Hall at conball_sports. What happened to Dane Belton, and why is he fell off with guys like Jason Pinnock on the depth chart? Why is he fallen behind on the depth chart?
So I totally agree with Pinnock playing over Dane Belton with Xavier McKinney out, just because Pinnock can play center field. He's got the speed, range. I think he's honestly just coming out of the draft. I think he's a better player. Obviously, Pinnock's another year in the league. Pinnock was a convert from cornerback, but he's a better athlete and really in real simple terms than Belton. And then with McKinney out, it's we got to they don't want to play Julian Love at center field like crazy. But I'm surprised he's getting 0 reps.
Yeah,
I know they're playing Tony Jefferson and stuff in the 3 safety sets, but I'm surprised he's gotten 0 reps. Because he wasn't horrible when he played.
He's played 14 snaps since the Dallas game. He played 7 snaps against Dallas, 0 against the Commanders in the tie, 7 snaps against Philly, and that was probably just going in at the end of the game, and then 0 snaps this past weekend. I don't know. This could just be the fan in me and not really the quote-unquote Giants analyst in me. I'm not fully liking that they're not trusting Dane Belton to go out there and do anything or play anything when their number 1 safety is out. I'm not liking that right now.
But here's the thing is I think the number 1 safety being out keeps him off the field because you have to put Pinnock back there as a center fielder. And it's now you have a young center fielder. You got Love out there who's got to play well. And it's they just kind of want to put a vet out there in Tony Jefferson who can do his job. So I don't hate it. Now Belton's the guy you'd want to put on man coverage on tight ends when you get the chance. So it's one of those coaching staff decisions that I actually don't hate much. If they drafted Pinnock instead of claiming off waivers, I think we'd all be fine with playing Pinnock over Belton. But it's just Belton's the guy they invested in with a draft pick. Pinnock they got for free. Yeah, for sure. All right, last question.
Last question. Western Mass Giants fan at ZMart58. Hey, fellas, can't believe how much talking Giants history has been made this year. On that note, what has been the wildest or best thing, podcasting-wise, this year, or favorite memories so far?
I can't really pin one down, Justin. What's yours?
Basically, every time that we do something with other community members, especially a big tailgate, a big event. So FanFest was absolutely awesome. Had a little flashback that, oh shit, Nick Gates actually drove by and he like stopped by before, you know, he went in for, you know, the practice, whatever. You know, he stopped by our event and, you know, kind of got bombarded with autographs and stuff. So that was very fun. The Eagles, the Commanders tailgate was just absolutely insane. The draft was fun too. You know, I mean, that was just 17 hours of live streaming. So even though we're not in person, like with our community, the fact that we spent 17 hours on YouTube together through those 3 days was absolutely awesome. So basically for me, any time, talking Giants memory wise, anytime that we spend time with the rest of our community is awesome. But then just as a fan, as a Giants fan, going down to Tennessee and experiencing that Nashville game was one of the best things that I've ever done.
Yeah, I'm trying to it's hard for me, like, training camp was a lot of fun. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, covering a Giants training camp was very, very cool. And I thought of that too, Bobby, where we kind of pushed some buttons that usually don't get pushed. And what we're doing as quote unquote media members without being members of the media, we're doing things differently than basically, and I hate to, this is really like a big ego statement, but I think it's true. We're doing things very differently than what anybody has kind of done before, because we are media members that aren't members of the media.
Yeah.
Jordan, I think Jordan and Dan Duggan have both told us that you guys are media, but we're just not media.
Yeah, we're not some clowns. We're not some random clowns. I will say, like, so you were in the car with me after the Thomas interview, and I don't think either one of us were like, oh, we got to meet Andrew Thomas. Like, I think both of us were like, it's going to be, like, it wasn't the interview that was it was like, I can't wait to just tweet out that we got Thomas on, because I know people are going to be, like, so hyped for us. Like, that was probably, the draft, I would say the draft, but the draft is every year type of thing, so I'm trying to think of, like, this year. But training camp was a lot of fun, though. Like, training camp was a lot of fun. We got to talk with people. Training camp is the time of year where you are working the same amount of hours as you do in the regular season, but it's just kind of fun. Like, there's like really no stress to anything.
No. Julian.
The best memory for the draft for me was definitely Cordell Flott getting drafted. Only because, like, I know the work that goes on behind the scenes with both of you and how you guys study, like, hundreds of players and know all of them inside and out. And it was just like the culmination of Wandale getting drafted, which I don't think both of you guys like had done a ton of research on him. And then there was somebody in between, I think.
Azudu was one of my, I think he was my last watch before the draft started that day. And drafted him.
Then Cordell gets drafted and Bobby just like dies inside.
It's so funny how this past draft went. So first round doesn't count. Wandale was not someone who was on our radar. Maybe I'm just against like short wide receivers, but he just wasn't on my radar. Like, I watched a little bit of him. And then like with the Giants wide receiver wasn't like the biggest thing, and I just always go for like not the short guys. Yeah. Then Azudu was literally watched him hours before he was picked for the first time. Flott had no clue who he was. Bellinger, remember, Justin, when we're like, we don't know if we always will cover this player when we preview the position. We're like, at least tight end we will, because we hit on every tight end except Bellinger, because we didn't have all 22 film on Bellinger.
No, but he was a Senior Bowl guy.
Yeah, and so Bellinger was a guy I only watched. Like, I watched him the day like 2 days before the draft. Like, what I do is I watch all 22, and then the last week before the draft, I'm like, all right, these guys who are like in the top 10s of their spots, but I don't have all 22 on them, and I watch them. Like Troy Anderson. I can't believe I went the whole draft season thinking Troy Anderson might be good, and then watched him, and I was like, what are you people talking about? Bellinger was one of those. Belton was one I didn't watch, and freaking Dane Brugler put him in a mock draft, and I downloaded his film and just didn't watch him, didn't get to it. And yeah, that was a very frustrating draft. Like, every draft, it's like we have success, but I'm like, we got to do so much freaking better next year. It's one of those things that I will never come away from the draft and be like, we did enough.
No, but I'm excited about our draft coverage, especially, the future of JM football. Julian, it's your assignment. I'm going back to my teacher days here. Julian, it's your task to look at as many players as possible who are under 5'9". That you are taking that. I'm putting that on you.
Perfect. All you need to do is get open. You don't need to moss people. You just got to get open and find a window and get the ball. Bobby's against this, but this is the new wave of the NFL we're talking about.
Yeah,
He's got to adapt to the times.
Gone are the days of the Kenny Galladay's of the world. We want
I didn't
route
say I'm
runners.
looking for 6'4" receivers. I want at least 5'11", though.
All right, well, that's why Julian gets 5'9" and under.
Word up.
That's a show.
All right. We appreciate you guys. We'll be back on Friday for a very important preview. We'll see you then. Until then, let's go Big Blue.